Well, hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. You're watching India Fights Back with me, Rajat Kane. In this episode of show, we'll talk about rising cases. Yes, there are some states that still happens to be concern or at least the states of interest for center and the entire paraphernalia which is fighting COVID-19. Well, that includes Maharashtra, Kerala, Rajasthan, and the northeastern states of Meghalaya, Manipur, Nagaland. Well, now these are states whereby the positivity rate is clocking little above what we're experiencing at the national level, which is around 2% in last 30 odd days. Now, how important is therefore to assess situation, to have a strict note on it, and be prepared. The center is concerned about rise in numbers and of course the hypothesis that everyone is talking of a possible third wave. I'm still with caveat saying a possible third wave, where the experts have been talking about it. Well, to discuss further on this issue, we join with panel of two guests, Dr. Rahul Pandit. He's member of Maharashtra COVID Task Force. Many thanks, Dr. Pandit, for being in the show, and Dr. Raman Gangakherkar. He's member National Task Force for COVID-19 and also member ICMR. Many thanks, Dr. Raman Gangakherkar. Let me start with you, Dr. Pandit, Dr. Rahul Pandit, sir. Could you just give me, the current status of COVID positivity rate, and of course, like what measures are you taking in your state, that is Maharashtra?
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for having me on your program.
Many thanks, sir. Many thanks.
So, in the last couple of weeks, if you actually start charting the graph of the cases as the test positivity rate, you will see that the test positivity rate as well as the cases are starting to come down. They are extremely slow. I don't deny that. We are not seeing a rapid fall in the cases, but there is certainly a downward trend which is seen. I have always maintained and said that Maharashtra and Mumbai have got a fat tail, and that fat tail just doesn't seem to die down very quickly. Even during the first wave, January, Mumbai was still having somewhere between 350 to 400 cases, though the Maharashtra cases had come down significantly at that time before it started rising again. And probably that's what we are doing. There are around 9 districts of concern, and they are closely observed, and there are significant measures being put up there. And the two which were basically very high were Kolhapur, Satara, and Ratnagiri. The test positivity rate there was above 5%, still between 5 and 10%. In fact, 3-4 weeks ago, it was around 12%. That has come down now, and we are actually seeing it to go below 5%, which is obviously still above the national average. But what we find in general epidemiological principles, and Professor Gangakherkar would be in a better position to say, but when it comes below 5%, we are a little bit comfortable. Of course, we lose the guard at that time, but we become a bit comfortable and say that, look, things look like they are coming under control now. So I believe Maharashtra is getting better, but we need to keep our eyes open, ears open, and keep the vigil on. And of course, we keep the COVID appropriate behavior. Can't be emphasized more than that. That mask is the best weapon, and vaccine is the best weapon, the next best weapon which we have. Because I'm saying next best because it needs to be made available, and it is getting available until everybody gets vaccinated. Mask seems to be the best weapon which we have.
Right. Dr. Pandit, before a broad-based discussion, just one small point here. Among the districts of concern, is there also, if you look at the micro picture, any age group of concern? I know Maharashtra has been phenomenal in terms of, mapping your population, your age groups, and of course, children, even much before we started talking about children as cause of, area of concern for the possible third wave. So any particular age group you're keeping a close eye on?
So definitely we are keeping an eye on the children as well as the elderly population which is there. So children, fortunately, we are not seeing a lot of case increases. In fact, that's something which is reassuring. But the other age groups, I think there are cases which are seen across the age groups. The vaccinated population seems to have the least amount of infection, but I don't have the real hard data in front of me to give you figures of that. But that's been the trend which I've been noticing from most of the other hospitals and states, specifically from medical colleges. People who are vaccinated are rarely getting admitted, is what the people are saying in the medical colleges. But I think we need to have a more data to actually make a good comment on that.
Right. Stay on, Dr. Rahul Pandit. Many thanks for your opening remarks. Dr. Ganga Kherkar, sir, as Dr. Pandit from Maharashtra COVID Task Force, he just mentioned that as we clock, say, around 5% of the positivity rate, you're slightly relaxed, or to say you're not that concerned. Do you also agree, or still 5%, or rather any number above national average would still be categorized as area of concern?
I think all states, when they are above the national average, you should consider, looking at the issues as to why their numbers continue to be higher. No, you can't neglect them by any means, because eventually you want to eliminate this infection. If you want to eliminate it, you have to look at every rise that you see with a closer lens and try to identify problems that are associated with it. Now, one thing which we have to realize, it's not only numbers in certain states. You find even the test positivity rates are also increasing. Now, if it was only test positivity rate that was increasing, we could have looked at number of tests that were offered and perhaps intensified offer of tests. Now that both the things are happening in certain places, especially in Kerala, now you look at certain states in Northeast, in Rajasthan as well. One of the things which we have to realize is it's a two-way thing that we have to resolve. One, the offer of test has to increase, and at the same, so that you detect and isolate, trace their contacts, and try to ensure that the infection doesn't spread beyond. And the second part that we have to also think that it is possible that even if the governments are willing to offer the test, people are not coming forward because now they don't perceive this as a big issue, especially in the younger population. Now, if we have to do this, I think we have to embark into a better, larger campaign in the community and try to ensure that these rates come down. Now, the reason why perhaps even these rates, I may perhaps differ. No, I may feel that Maharashtra should not be categorized now, at least among those states where the rates are increasing by any means, because they are actually on a decline at present, as whatever we are seeing. But Kerala, Rajasthan, and the states in Northeast, yes, they are increasing. And one of the reasons which we have to keep at the back of mind is those states or those areas wherever the infection was not particularly severe in the first wave are coming out with larger numbers and a protracted tail when it comes to decline that is being observed. But we need to help. This is one country. These are our own countrymen. We have to try to work together and ensure that we resolve this issue.
Important point, Dr. Raman Ganga Kherkar. Many thanks. Dr. Pandit, as Doctor just said, that there are certain areas, certain districts in states, not necessarily just one or two states, whereby numbers now, or to say during and post second wave, has been higher than they were previously. So what has been strategy of Maharashtra, especially in containing the containment zone per se?
So we have been very, very aggressive in actually ring fencing, even up to the level of a taluka if required. So when the Delta plus variant, beg your pardon, was detected in one particular place, one particular district taluka, we actually had a significant amount of genome surveilling done in that taluka, as well as we contained the movement of the people from that taluka quite significantly. And this is an ongoing process, we can't be complacent about it. If you look at the way the peak has happened, the second wave started from the Vidarbha region of Maharashtra and then spread across to the country. The districts of Kolhapur, Ratnagiri, Satara, Sangli, which are sort of more towards the western border and towards the southern part of the state, actually had their peak come up a little bit over a month or so after the rest of the country and the rest of the state actually had. So right now, what decline we are seeing, I agree with Professor Raman Ganga Kherkar, sir, that Maharashtra is probably getting out of this, and we should not be categorizing Maharashtra the same way. A significant amount of education in terms of awareness has gone. There has been a review by none less than the Honorable Chief Minister at the district level as well. So there is an effort put up, and I'm sure other states are also doing it. As Sir said,
Absolutely.
all the CMs of all the states, nobody wants this deadly disease to spread in their state. We all want it to be contained, and I cannot be just praising one CM or the other state, or because they are all actually putting in an effort, and we have to help each other out in this. I completely agree with him. It cannot be something which has worked in one state. It should probably be tried into the other state as well. They may have geographic differences. They may have differences in the terms of population movement. For example, Maharashtra and Kerala are fairly industrialized states with a density of population which is very high, and movement of people within the state and people coming out of the state and into the state is also very high. It may not work some of the north in the eastern states, where the population may not be sort of moving out of the state that much, and people may not be visiting the state that much right now because of the lockdown restrictions. So I think we'll have to just tailor-made the solutions for each state and implement it, but pick up the ideas which have happened in and shown a positive response in the other states in a nicer way.
Certainly, certainly. Dr. Raman Gangadhar, sir, another aspect that we keep coming back to, and we keep often discuss, is that communication with say public at large. How important is that aspect, so as to contain numbers, so as to educate people and make sure the COVID appropriate behavior is followed? There is no slip ups anywhere.
Yeah, communication is one of the most important things. What governments can do is supply every possible thing, ensure that services are available. But the uptake of services, uptake of the promotion of COVID appropriate behavior or taking vaccines, it is in the hands of the people. So if people need to change by any degree, what we need to do is communicate well with them. Now there is a perception that we should try to instill some kind of fear in the minds of people. But one must always remember, in the past we have learned many lessons in different diseases.
Right.
Any campaign that is based on fear can never sustain the behaviors which you actually modify with the fear itself. So what is important is we have to treat them as equal, try to plead with them the case, try to instill the confidence that this is a preventable disease, this can actually infect you, and even if you may be of a younger generation, perhaps your worry should be around post-COVID syndrome that is likely to happen.
Right.
It is also important that we try to talk to them and tell them that if any person comes out as positive and has a pregnant woman in your own household or in the surrounding, you might even infect her and can cause lots of damage. No, and it is important also to tell them that since this is a preventable infection, what is most important for you is to try and work together with the government and ensure that all your surrounding, all your neighborhood, not only your house, you could protect that by being an opinion leader for everybody. Now, if you are an opinion leader for your own family, if your family also starts following COVID appropriate behavior, takes vaccine, it becomes one of those ideal families which is looked upon differently by the community or the friend circles around you. So you gather mass by ensuring that the numbers who want to adopt these behaviors and take vaccines increase, and their visibility in itself puts up lot of peer pressure to make others who don't do it, they start worrying whether I should do this in that particular manner. Peer pressure is one of the most important thing that almost changes our way of looking at whether preventive or risky behaviors. You look at those people who are going out for holidaying. Now, there must be many, when they walk out of their cars, they may be wearing masks and still trying to come out. But the moment they see others who are not wearing the mask, their fear is gone. They would take out their mask. But can we not use this peer pressure the right way by ensuring that our communication strategies treat people equally? They don't remain fearful. They tend to communicate the risks well. and also emphasize the fact that it is in your own hands. If all of us work together, not only will you not get infected, we will ensure that each state, even the country, could perhaps eliminate this threat that has come with this pandemic rapidly.
Dr. Khedkar, you rightly mentioned about a certain cause of concern here, and especially like, COVID appropriate behavior, and at the same time, the post-COVID issues or post-COVID complication. We, of late, we're coming across phenomenon of a breakthrough infection. Now, if we going forward and looking at ways of containing and looking, or rather countering the larger question, so how important does these two, three facets would figure over there, especially post-COVID infection and breakthrough infection?
No, a breakthrough infection is one phenomena which is going to come because these are first generation vaccines.
Okay.
All of us, when we talk about these vaccines, we tend to say that these vaccines protect you against severe COVID disease and death. Now, we don't make that exaggerated claim that you would be able to protect a person from acquiring this infection as much as you would to prevent the severe COVID disease. So naturally, there will be more of asymptomatic or mild infections that may occur.
Okay.
But should we be worried about it? There is one thing which we have to keep at the back of mind. Even if people after vaccination will have mild and asymptomatic infections, they are unlikely to put up a stress on our healthcare system, nor perhaps you might see that these impacts are going to lead to a long-term kind of a damage over the population per se. What is most important for us to worry about is if now we know majority of the people who tend to go out and who are at risk, or those even among those who are economically productive and have taken vaccines, they are likely to go out and try to earn money by working somewhere. Their exposure levels are high. Even if they take vaccines, if they are going to get asymptomatic and mild infections, if you want to reduce the adverse impact that this infection could have on the society, we must ensure that all 45 years plus population is first vaccinated at this juncture. If we do that, then even if they come with mild infection, this mild infection is not so easily transmitted to others in the family as otherwise it would have been. So essentially, what is it telling us? That we would perhaps try to ensure that the most vulnerable population is protected first, ensure that they are saturated with vaccines, their reverse isolation takes place within until everybody in their family or those who come to their own households are also vaccinated, and then roll out everywhere. I see no issues around that if we follow these kinds of approaches.
Right. Certainly, sir. Many thanks. Just stay on, Dr. Raman Khedkar. Dr. Pandit, as we just discussed about several complications in terms of keeping an eye on. So, in your state particularly, what would you prefer, or rather, I would say, which would be the ones you'd keeping an eye on? Like, I mean, say post-COVID infection is one of the things, and even a breakthrough infection. Are you seeing any phenomenon in Maharashtra?
Okay, so I think Professor Ganga Khedkar mentioned quite a lot about that. Let's talk about breakthrough infection. If infection which is happening after complete vaccination has been done for the person. Okay, we look at the case of United Kingdom right now. You have a third wave which is going on in UK and a fourth wave which is going on in US. But the UK healthcare system is not stressed. There are almost 40 to 50,000 cases coming positive right now in both the countries.
Right.
And hardly there are any admission rates currently there. So which proves the point. So when we actually have a vaccine trial and we talk about breakthrough infection, when we go from a trial mode to a real life scenario, that's where the proof of the pudding is. The proof of the pudding which shows us from these two examples is that one, even if there is a breakthrough infection, it is going to be mild or asymptomatic and it's not going to stretch your healthcare system. It's going to give immunity from severe infection and death. And most importantly, the concern that whether these vaccines would actually provide effectiveness against the strains which are coming up or not also seems to have been reduced by the two countries which we are seeing, specifically UK, where a large number of population actually has got the same vaccine what is predominant in our country as well, the
Right.
Covishield. So
Right.
I think we should actually looking at the real life scenario in UK and saying, fine, their population vaccinated is much higher than our country
Absolutely.
right
That's a
now.
point. That's a point, right, sir? Yeah. Yeah.
When we do reach to that point, we will also have similar sort of findings that our population would not be getting severe or hospitalization because of COVID. So that's the first thing which we need to look for. Regarding the post-COVID syndrome or the long COVID infections or the signs which are there, we were amongst the first hospital. My hospital was among the first hospital to actually start a post-COVID dedicated OPD, and such outpatient departments have been started by many government as well as municipal as well as field hospitals which have been erected in Mumbai and Pune and some of the other districts as well. So there is a close eye being kept on for post-COVID or long COVID syndrome. And one of the things we need to understand that significant number of these patients actually have been traumatized by what they have gone through or what their family has gone through, sometimes even losing a family member. So mental health issues to be also addressed with these people, and we have an active counseling session going on for these people, and this needs to be probably recognized and implemented at a larger scale across the country, because
Right.
it's very tough. First of all, we are going through a tough time in terms of economy as a whole world. I'm not filling out any country. As a whole world, the economy has been in a very tight nip. The second thing is that people may have lost their jobs or they have not been able to go to their jobs and earn money. And on top of that, they have gone through this terrible disease or they have seen a
Right.
family member through that. So it takes a toll on the mental stability. And I think mental health also needs to be addressed in these patients.
Certainly. So we do emphasize on mental health, and that's extremely important aspect. At the same time, I urge all the viewers who are watching this show, please listen to experts. Do not listen to any hearsay. Do not listen to anybody who comes up with unscientific, irrational solution or at least approach towards this particular disease of COVID-19. Now, this is something that all of us need to do. Well, many thanks, Dr. Rahul Pandit, member Maharashtra COVID Task Force. Many thanks, Dr. Raman Ganga Kherkar, member National Task Force for COVID-19. And gentlemen, it's been really a pleasure hearing all your opinions, your views, and in whatever way you have educated us, you educated our viewers in terms of what we need to do so as we should not see another spike. I mean, we have done well so far to keep numbers down. We need to do a lot. Well, that's it. We sign off on this note. Thank you. Goodbye.